Hi everyone, and welcome to the sixth video in our series on early learning. We've gotten quite a few new followers since last week, so if you are new here, welcome. I just want to remind the new followers that all the aspects we have been discussing up until now are interlinked, so it's important that you catch up on the previous videos, and you will find the links to those videos in the bottom of this article. I'm really excited to share in this journey of helping to set your child up for success. And in today's video, we are going to be discussing final aspects of visual perception. We are going to be having a look at visual discrimination, visual closure, and visual analysis and synthesis. Let's start with the visual discrimination. So visual discrimination is the ability to recognize visual detail. This essentially is what helps us to see when things are the same and also when they are different. And it's a really important skill for reading. If you think about our alphabet, so many of the letters look the same. Think about A and O, B and D, W and V, M and N, and also G and Q. So how can you practice these visual discrimination skills with your child? Here are a few ideas. So bingo is a really good idea. Little children can't always recognize numbers, but we can give them visual bingo forms. This one I found on the internet, and there's literally thousands of these available. And if you're very creative, you can draw your own as well. For younger children, we want to give them actual objects that they can have a look at. So I have made an example here for you of two bowls with items in them. It doesn't work all that great on camera, but let me see if I can show them to you. So in these two bowls, I have included some items. So they are washing pegs and shapes and coins. And so you can fill these bowls with items and get your child to see in which bowl are the items different, or rather which items are different in the bowls. You can start off really easily, and of course, as your child gets better at that game, you can increase the complexity by putting in more and more objects. So you can do the same thing, for instance, with glasses of liquid. Fill up the glasses with a liquid and have your child match which glasses have the same amount of liquid, or have them compare which glass has got more or which glass has got less. So you're not only practicing your visual discrimination skills there, you are also starting to bring in some numeracy concepts. Any sort of activity that requires matching is a really good idea for visual discrimination skills. So have your child help you match up socks after you've done the laundry, or have them sort out your small chains and put all the same kind of coins together. Or if you are brave, you can also get them to match up your earrings, for instance. It's great to be able to add another sense to a visual perceptual skill. So if we want to add some body movement, some kinesthetic learning, a really good idea would be to draw matchstick figures like I've done for you here, because matchstick figures are really easy to draw. And I've drawn them in all sorts of different orientations, and then the idea is to show these to your kids and have them copy the figures with their bodies. Also a good idea for some kinesthetic learning is what we call jump to circle. So I'll give you an idea here. This works really well if you're stuck inside. So I have made some circles with different shapes in them, and you will simply say to your child, jump onto the circle that has a heart and a cross, or a heart and a triangle. So there you are working not only on your child's visual discrimination skills, but also on shape recognition and on analysis of verbal instructions. Then next, let's have a look at visual closure. So visual closure is the ability to recognize a familiar item when a part of that item is obscured. And it's really important if you think about when we print or scan, how often does part of the text get cut off, or it gets smudged, or it's obscured by a figure, for instance. So having good visual closure skills is going to help your child to be able to understand what is happening in that text. Now, we've said before that puzzles are absolutely amazing for visual perceptual skills on the whole. So always a good idea to invest in puzzles. Another great activity to work on visual closure are dot-to-dot pictures. I'm sure most of you know what those are. So there's an example of one where your child has to complete the figure by joining the dots. What I've done sometimes in the past as well is to take a coloring in book, and then you put a plain sheet of paper on top of a page that your child wants to color in. And instead of copying it by tracing the lines, I will simply make dots, so that the child first has to complete the figure by connecting the dots before they can color it in. Any sort of construction activity that your child does, whether it's Lego or Duplo or Zoob or K'NEX, that all requires visual closure skills, because your child has to either look at the instruction of what the completed item looks like, or even keep in mind what he wants his design to be while he's still building it and only has part of it put together. Another really good activity for visual closure is to draw a figure. So I've done that here. I've done a few basic pictures, so you can draw them. A house, a star, and a fish. And what we will do then is literally fold the picture in half and only show your child half and see whether they can guess what it is that you have drawn. And then, just as a sanity saver, I want to show you guys this idea. So I've taken my shoes and a sticker which I've cut in half and stuck the sticker into my shoes. Now, if you have children who are always getting those shoes on the wrong feet, this is a really good idea to help them see how they should have which foot the shoe should go on. It's a really good visual discrimination activity, and at the same time they are also starting to learn about left and right. So we're getting lots of concepts in here. And then the final aspect I want to discuss with you is visual analysis and synthesis. Now, you will remember that we chatted about analysis and synthesis during the auditory discrimination and auditory perceptual videos as well. Analysis is the ability to analyze detail, whereas synthesis is the ability to see the whole altogether. And your child will need this when they are looking at individual letters in a word. That's the analysis part. And when they look at the word on a whole, that's the visual synthesis part. Now, there are some great examples of this. Again, this is one that I printed on the internet. I just want to find it here. So this is a picture of a dove, but if I bring it closer, you will see that it's actually formed from smaller pictures of birds, and very similar to that figure ground that we discussed last week. But the difference here is that we're not just looking at sort of blobs of ink. Now we are looking at the fact that one big picture, the synthesis, is made up of individual smaller pictures, which is the analysis. I love the pictures, and I couldn't print one for you today, but there's also tons of examples on the internet where artists have created works of art where when you look closely, every single pixel is actually made up of an individual photo. I just think those are mind-blowing and very good to show your children for visual analysis and synthesis skills. Another way in which to practice this is to take magazines, and I like the full page adverts that usually have faces in them, and then to actually cut up the individual parts. You'll see here the facial features, and then have your child glue them together. I've left some spaces so you can obviously see the idea, but your child is going to glue them back together to make a whole face. So not only are they focusing on the individual aspects, but also on the whole altogether. Tangrams are also a great idea to practice visual analysis and synthesis skills. I'm not sure if you guys know what tangrams are. I actually held this picture up previously in the previous video. Tangrams are specific shapes, and I think it's a German concept if I'm not mistaken, but you now get these all over. You get them in wood, you get them in plastic. I've actually got a magnetic set as well, and you'll use these shapes to make all sorts of different pictures. So I've got some examples for you here. You can make a fish and a boat, a rocket and a house. There are literally millions of designs that you can make with tangrams. If you have the funds, it's a great idea to invest in a tangram set, but you can also very easily make your own. And I've given you a little bit of help here. I found an amazing set on the internet. So I've provided you with the link at the bottom here where you will find not only the template for the actual shapes, but also tons of pictures that you can build with them. So I hope your kids enjoy that. And then lastly, we've spoken so often about the importance of puzzles for visual perceptual skills that I just wanted to show you ways in which you can also make your own. So this was super easy. I'll try and fold it in half. So I basically took a picture from a magazine of a car, cut it into 3 simple, pictures, and then your child can learn to put these together. And then as a kid better at this, you can actually make it really complex. So there you'll see that's quite an intricate picture. And by cutting it into smaller and smaller parts, your child's visual analysis and synthesis skills get better as they have to really focus on how all the different parts fit in together. So that is basically it for this week on the final aspects of visual perceptual skills. I'm really excited that we've worked all the way through the auditory perception and the visual perception up until this stage, because that's so important for forming that basis and that foundation for learning. And I feel like we are ready now to actually start moving on to some real learning. So from next week, we are going to get into the nitty-gritty of numeracy and numbers and some early math skills. See you guys then.